Andrew Drummond here at White Mountain Ski Company to talk about tech bindings. I'm going to go over what they are, how to use them, and a couple other tips to help you along on your backcountry adventures. So tech bindings have toe pins and heel pins. These were, invented in the 1980s, but brought to market in the 90s. And every company now is making some form or fashion of the tech binding. These right here are from a brand called ATK. What you'll see is you've got toe pins, heel pins that are going to work with the inserts of your boot. So you've got some toe inserts and a heel insert. And the whole idea is that you can pivot uphill on the toe piece freely. And that's going to make it a lot more enjoyable, more ergonomic, and also just less weight. Now, tech bindings come in all shapes and sizes, as I said. Some are very minimalist and some are more freeride centric. This is really what you're going to look at the anatomy of a tech binding is you've got your toe pins, your heel pins, you'll have a couple heel risers and perhaps an integrated brake. This model has adjustability, so you'll get a size up and a size down. Also has a ski crampon slot. Now to use the tech binding, they're all going to be similar, so I'm going to run through this particular model with ATK and just show you how it works. So we'll start at the bottom. We're going to act like we're going to go uphill and get the binding ready to get into. Starting off, you don't want to drag the brake going uphill, so on this model, we're going to push down the brake and rotate the heel tower 180 degrees. That locks the brake out. Now, every company is going to have a little different mechanism. Some will auto lock out when you step on it. But the key premise here is to get the pins out of the way because those are going to lock your heel down for downhill. And then you don't want to be dragging brakes on the way up, so just make sure those are out of the way. And most bindings are going to have some sort of heel riser, so make sure those are tucked out of the way as well. Now with your boot, I always like to make sure my boot's nice and loose. I like my foot to move freely inside the boot so that there's no hot spots, but it's okay to move with light friction. And I like to cheat a lot of range of motion by loosening all these buckles, and of course, make sure you're in walk mode. Now, getting into the binding, this is the most challenging part. Up on the mountain, we don't have this perfectly level terrain, and there's often fresh snow. So just keep this in mind, and we all take multiple tries on some days to get our toes in the inserts. But for the foot that's going in, you're going to take the toe, drag it. I like to graze this toe piece, slide forward, and once you feel the ski move forward a little bit, I put a little pressure on the toe. See, I missed it. So I'm just going to step on it. I'm going to try that again. And often if I'm having trouble, I'll look at my heel, make sure it's lined up. There you go. So now the boot is in the toe piece, free pivoting. But when you initially step into a tech binding, you're going to be in ski mode. And that's releasable, which is great for downhill, but for uphill, you don't want to be pressuring out of the binding, because without your heel locked in, if you really put some effort, say you get going side hill, you can pop out. So to counteract that, we're going to lock the toe piece up. This one goes up 2 clicks, and now you have a nice solid connection with your binding. And you can see in the heel here, you've got access to a couple heel risers depending on how steep it is. Now this is going to help as you go uphill because your heel doesn't have to step all the way down, much like walking up stairs versus the side of a hill without stairs. And so that's going to feel a lot more natural. I love heel risers. Some people don't use them at all. So I think give them a shot, see what works for you. Another tip is use your pole basket or the top of your pole to flip the heel risers around. Now when you want to get out of the binding, you're going to get out through the toe piece. I usually bend down and use the palm of my hand, or I use the grip side of my pole to get this back into ski mode, because there's a lot of force when that's locked up, and then use the tip of the pole to exit out of the binding. So that's uphill mode. Downhill, we want to get the the binding back into the correct position with the pins forward and release the brake. So I like to butterfly out my heel risers, rotate back forward. Now your skins are on. Now we can take the skins off. I skipped that step because we're just talking bindings here, but the idea is that when you put this back on the snow, you want the brakes released so it doesn't go flying off without the skin on it. Now with your boot, you want your boot in ski mode as well, so you're going to lock everything up. We're in ski mode here. And the toe piece is already open because we just got out of it. I'm going to check, make sure I've got no snow under my boot, and also just be mindful of snow in the bindings. So nothing's going to prevent the boot from making a strong connection. Now I'm going to get in the same way, slide that toe forward, put some pressure down, feel a nice click. I'm leaving this in ski mode, so that's releasable mode. And then with the heel, I'm going to feel it seated on the pins and making sure that my heel risers are out of the way. And once I feel that the heel insert seated in the grooves, the heel grooves of the insert seated in the pins, I can step all the way down. With a little bit of force, those pins go out, snap back, and lock the heel into place. That said, now you can go ski, and then when you want to get out, you're going to get out again through the toe. So everything is actuated through the toe. I'm going to use the tip of my pole. And then you're going to get a little tension probably from the brake and the heel pins, but if you just wiggle off to one side or the other, you're free. Now, the bindings have a couple adjustments on them. Some will have some adjustability on the toe, some on the heel, some are demo bindings, but the key takeaways is that you have release retention values, and on here, there's just a vertical release and a lateral release. So that's how hard it is to step in and then release head over heels, but also how to release laterally. And then you'll also have a set screw, generally for moving the whole heel tower forward and back. If you ever switch boots, go up a size or down a size. Those release values are really important, and the lower numbers are going to have more emphasis on release, and the higher number is more emphasis on retention. And you want to match the bindings up with the skis and the ski style that you like to ski. So if you're putting a lot of force and a lot of torque on your bindings, you're probably going to need a higher retention value. And if you're someone that skis very slow and conservative, perhaps even a lighter weight setup, then you can go with a lower number. It's something where you kind of use DIN as a guidance, but backcountry skiing is so variable where sometimes you're skiing very slow over technical terrain and other times you're skiing very fast, say if you did an uphill lap at the resort and then you were just free skiing down the groomers. So it's going to be a wide range of, there's going to be a wide range of situations, and you're going to have to figure out how the binding works for your style of skiing. Lastly, with tech bindings, you just want to make sure they're in good maintenance. And what that means is you're going to want to check the screws for tightness. I do that at least once or twice a season, and definitely at the beginning of the season. I don't want anything loose. I also want to use grease, if it's suggested by the manufacturer, to grease any of the moving parts. I want to make sure the brake is working properly and that the alignment is perfect. So when this boot goes in, I want a nice center drop on those heel pins, because any alignment issues, you're already going to be pre-releasing. My last thoughts on tech bindings is, if you want to tour, this is you want a tech binding, because it's going to set you up for such a better uphill experience. You know, there's a lot of binding types out on the market. You can get one with more of a traditional heel piece with the tech toe. You can get a hybrid binding that goes from a DIN certified alpine binding into a touring binding, and you can go with a frame binding. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to tour, but there's hands down, no better way to tour than a tech binding. So if you find yourself wanting to do at least 70% touring, then I would go with a touring binding. You know, that's just a rough number, but just know that if you're going to do a lot of resort skiing, probably don't want to be on a tech binding the whole time. But you know, say you're traveling and you're going to do some resort skiing, some touring, like a tech binding is totally adequate. And then if you just find yourself wanting to do a bunch of touring, then you're certainly going to want a tech binding. Of course, any questions, please reach out. We're available to give you advice and help you figure out which binding is right for you. Thanks.